What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 13 of the Hoops and Hangouts podcast. It's your host Coop. I'm with my guy Mike over there. How you been, my boy? Yes, sir.
Wait.
13, 13. Lucky 13.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah,
There
after
you go.
Friday the
13, 13.
13th. Yes, sir.
Yes. Oh, we just
As y'all
passed.
know,
Yeah, we did just pass Friday.
yes, sir. As y'all know, it's been a minute. We've been, we're just trying to stay consistent with content, but it's been a minute since me and Mike has been able to get together. Truly grateful to get back together, and we got a lot going on. It's All-Star Weekend, so we just had the Super Bowl last week. So let's get it started. The fan favorite, first segment to open up the show. What's on your mind, Mike? We're gonna kick it off with you. What's currently on your mind right now?
Oh, well, what's on my mind? We reached the halfway point of the NBA season. I feel like a lot of people are still harping on who's favorites to win certain conferences and make big playoff runs, but it's only halfway through the season, and I think that everything looks good halfway point, but we see many teams start off strong, and then when it gets to playoffs and the lights are the brightest, they tend to falter out. So. No, I like to tell people patience. Just have patience. Don't make these automatic proclamations that one team's going to the finals and another team's not. Patience. Anything can happen. It's a long basketball season. It's a long season.
Yeah, bro. Just going off of that, it is a long season, right? And there's a lot of ups and downs throughout the season. We've seen it with your Knicks team. We've seen it with, just going off of that, I also think we are going to start seeing some teams kind of slide into form. Like in the second half of the season, we start to see teams really go into form and fit into the place that they need to be. Teams that are supposed to be the real contenders, they start to slide up in the standings. Teams that you weren't really expecting to be that good start to slide down. I'm interested to see what Toronto does, because I know they've been having a really good season, being third place most of the standings. Now I think they fell to about fourth or fifth, so I'm interested to see what happens with them.
Right now.
Yep. So that's just real interesting to me. As far as me, what's on my mind is post-trade deadline. We've seen a lot of those bottom barrel teams really start to make some moves that could be potentially franchise changing. This might be a little petty on my end because I'm a Heat fan and my team was one of the teams that didn't make a move. But it's nice to see. We got teams like Utah, they made a big Jaren Jackson trade, and now they're taking. We got Atlanta, who is in that play-in spot. They made a trade for Jonathan Kuminga. He's going to start playing in the second half. Washington got AD, taking the risk on AD and Trae Young. So I'm just interested to see. Charlotte's ascending as well, so I'm just interested to see how those normal bottom half of the barrel teams are going to proceed going into next season and see what they could do. You know what I'm saying?
No, 100%. I mean, it's interesting with some of these trades. A lot of these teams, especially like you said, the bottom, the barrel teams made trades for not this year, but for next year. Like you said, like Utah made a trade for Jaren Jackson Jr. and they are already benching him. They're not benching him, but he's gonna go get some type of knee surgery to get the growth off his knee. Same thing with Anthony Davis. He's probably gonna get shut down. Trae Young may play, I would say, at best 2 weeks, 3 weeks of his time with the Wizards, and then they'll probably shut him down. It's just interesting. Like I said, I watch a lot of college basketball. I generally do love college basketball, and there is a lot of good players. We'll see. I don't know if there's really any franchise altering players in this draft, and that's why I find it interesting. Like a once in a lifetime talent or a generational talent. Like I feel like a lot of these teams are tanking to get a good player, but I mean, we saw it with the Sixers. Like you can get a good player like VJ Edgecombe a little bit later in the draft. I don't know if he was top 3 or not. I think he was 3 or 4, but still. So it's interesting. Like we don't even know who's the number 1 pick yet. That's why I find it interesting of the whole tanking situation, because we don't even know who the number 1 pick is.
Yeah, and you actually gave segue into the next segment. I appreciate that. As you said, there are a lot of teams like Utah who are tanking. The Nets, Indiana's been tanking, who are really trying to get one of these top draft picks, one of these freshmen that's in college right now. But I think it's real interesting because you bring up a good point. Like all the tanking, but I don't really know if any of them is really like franchise changing or generational talents like that, you know, for teams to be going this crazy. I just think it's just a larger number of those type of players than we normally see. That's why, which is why I don't even understand, because if you get the 10th pick, you could possibly still get one of those really good freshmen that's in college right now. And it's also confusing, right? Because like normally the teams, so this is where I stand with the tanking. I think it is a problem because it messes up the integrity of the game. One, I want to watch basketball and I want to see a good game. And two, Laurie Markin is on my fantasy team, so that's another thing. That's why I be feeling the type of way about it. But yeah, I just think like it doesn't guarantee that you can get the first pick, right? Dallas, they got the first pick last year and they were a playing team last year. You know, so Atlanta the year before, they were a playing team and they got the number 1 pick. So to do all this type of tanking and doing this stuff for your fans is letting the fans down. And it doesn't even guarantee the top pick. You know, they balanced out the ratios to get that first pick a few years ago, and you started to see the effects, which is why I don't understand. I just want to know what's your opinion on that, bro.
Yeah, I completely understand that. It's just like the fact that we don't have a clear number 1 pick just shows you like how, like it's just, for me personally, it's just not worth the tanking of that. If you look at just the history of just some of the best players in the league, they are mid-round draft picks. You know, 6 and up. You could look at people like Donovan Mitchell. You could look at people like, you know, De'Aaron Fox. Like some of these players are not number 1 or number 2 picks. Not often a number 1 pick comes in and changes the course of a franchise. I don't think, as great Cooper Flag is, and I think Cooper Flag's a generational talent, I think it's going to take years for Cooper Flag and the Dallas Mavericks to see results. Like, so when you tank and you are, you know, certain franchises that are always at the bottom, you just get this sense of always being at the bottom, and you don't get out of that losing mentality. Like it's different when it's like the NFL, and it's like if you're the worst team, you get the number 1 pick, so you have chances to, you know, improve. But the basketball's a lottery, so just because you lose, you know, 48 to 50 of your games does not guarantee that you're going to get, you know, the number 1 pick. It does not guarantee that at all. So you're putting your fan base in a situation where you're like, they're looking forward to the draft, and then when the draft comes and you don't get the number 1 pick, they're more disappointed than they ever been. No, I don't know who's the number 1 pick. I don't know if it's AJ DeBonsa. I don't know if it's Cole Pete. I don't know if it's any of these guys yet. And when they come there and they come to the team, right? What's next question is what's around them, right? Because then you're expecting them to instantly like get good. And like, for example, the Hornets was bad for a long time. And as much as they was trying to tank, they never got the number 1 pick. They had never gotten the number 1 pick. But they lucked into getting like LaMelo Ball. They lucked into getting Brandon Miller. And they was bad for years until now Con Canepel's, in my opinion, the most glue piece that they've had. Right? And then if you don't have a structured organization with a head coach or somebody who sees the vision, then what are we doing? I think tanking is such a bad, just counterproductive way. And you look at some of the people on rosters and teams, they're 2nd-round picks. Like, of course, I'm a Knicks fan, but Mo Diawara has been, in my opinion, one of the better draft picks of this last class. He was a 2nd-round draft pick out of France, and he's playing good minutes. He's playing real good minutes, actually. And you just look at some of these players who are like you're tanking for, and they don't get no playing time because it's a logjam.
Yep, I agree. And you also just never know who you're getting, right? We're already seeing like in college, Darren Peterson projected. I mean, we don't know if he's going to go number 1, but he's also having injury issues. He's also on a minutes restriction in college. He's also, I don't know if he's doing it because his scouts or his agents is telling him to not play as much or what's going on there. But that's also weird. You could end up drafting a player and they have an injury-ridden career. So it's just like, it's a lot of risk doing that. I mean, you're going to end up turning off a lot of fans. Like you said, the Kings is another team. They've been in the lottery every season. They only made the playoffs like 2 years in the last 20 years. So it's like
twice in the last 20 years. With Mike Brown as a head coach, and they fired him because De'Aaron Fox didn't like him, or him and De'Aaron Fox had beef, and they're both gone. And they're back in the whole cycle of losing.
Yup. So just this whole tanking thing, it doesn't guarantee anything. Especially if, like you said, you don't have the management to really manage those pieces that you end up getting. You know what I'm saying? So I have a
Yep.
huge issue with tanking at this point. Okay.
Any of the teams right now on the bottom is not, other than I would say the Indiana Pacers, because Halliburton will come back. Not any of those, and I like their head coach. Any of those teams in the bottom 4 or 5, I do not see them having any hope of competing next year. Like not a single one of these rookies are going to come in and then they're going to put you back to the top of being a top 5 playoff team. Like
Yep.
Luka didn't even do that his first year. No, not a single one of those number one picks has came in there since probably the 90s and the 80s have came in there and changed their franchise instantly. Like Michael Jordan came out, he was the third pick, and he didn't even change the Bulls. The Bulls they was bad for 3 or 4 years, and then they got good.
Yep. Yep.
So,
And Kobe was a seventh pick. You know what I'm saying? Like there's not
yep.
it's no generational talent for me to even understand why like so much of the tanking is happening. I don't understand it. And it's messing up the product. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm a Utah Jazz, I mean, now that I think about it, Utah Jazz has Danny Ainge, right? And that's the obvious team that's tanking the most. Resting Laurie Markkinen not playing in the fourth quarter. Jaren Jackson not out with the growth on his leg. Like it's just Danny Ainge is a smart guy, and I'm confident that they can pull themselves out of that even without them even being it, like needing to tank in the first place. So that's why I don't understand. I know the NBA is starting to fine players. How do you feel about the fines that you've seen? I know Utah got fined for 500,000. I
Well,
think Indiana got fined for 100,000. Like
Utah was disgusting because they was winning the basketball game. They was winning the basketball game, and they had no reason for the fourth quarter to come and be like, all right, all you guys are done. Like they was on minute restrictions. I didn't hear anything about a minute restriction for them to be like, yeah, you guys are not playing. They was up. They was winning. Double digits on top of that. And then you just say, oh, snap, we're doing way too good right now. So start losing.
yeah.
And then like we just saw the Dallas Mavericks get the number one pick. So no matter if you're number 1 to like 3, you all have the same 14%. And that does not guarantee you the number one pick. It doesn't guarantee.
Mhm.
And none of those players right now are going to get the Utah Jazz into championship contenders. So what are we pitching to these fans?
Yeah, that's a fact. And the thing is, like Utah, they already have they have good young pieces in Keontae George, and they just got Jaren Jackson. And I watch a lot of Utah games. Don't ask why, but I watch a lot of Utah games, and a lot of these games they really do be in it, and they be having a chance to win. So it's just like, and they be at home. So it's just like, what is the message going that you're sending to your fans, man? And I thought maybe
But
the fine
everybody's trying to.
Yeah, I
No,
thought
my
maybe the
fault. Keep
fine
going.
should have been a little stricter. You know, I felt like it should have been more. I know the owner came out saying like he agrees to disagree, and they ended up still winning against my Heat. We lost the game when they were purposely trying to lose, but yeah, like I think the fine should be stricter, and I think they need to change rules going into next season. Maybe having the lottery odds set earlier in the year, or maybe I saw something Richard Jefferson said about like maybe like incentivizing those lottery teams to win more to increase your chance of getting a higher lottery pick. Well, how do you think the NBA can solve this, bro?
I don't think it's solvable unless we went the soccer route and we had enough teams where like if you're in the top 5, instead of you getting the number one pick, you get relegated down to like a league, like the G League, and the G League team ends up being. That's the only way that will fix it, because that's how it fixes it in soccer. It's like, oh snap, we can't be top like 3 lowest teams because then we get sent down to the League B instead of being in League A. That's the only way that would fix it. Or you have to like truly find these owners. And some owners will care about it, some owners might not. But like somebody like maybe the owner of Utah, he might care about hitting a hefty fine. Like, yeah, I think it would incentivize it. It would be like, if you're in the top 5 teams, like, yeah, you get the number 1 pick, but owners, because you depending on the win-loss ratio and you just not trying to be competitive and you can see it, you get fined, $5 million. as a hefty fine, that would make some owners be like, all right, GMs. I would put the pressure more on GMs, like to get things done, to
Yeah,
fix things,
and
like
actually
to
build
really
the
work hard.
roster,
The,
you know, and
yeah,
like,
but the problem is everybody's trying to build this OKC mentality. But the thing about OKC and why they were so successful was OKC had, they had a young talent, but they traded for Shea Gilgeous-Alexander. There wasn't like they was tanking for trade. They traded for Shea. He also had Chris Paul there to mentor him when they was like, they wasn't the best team, they wasn't the worst team, but they had a center old guy there mentoring these young guys. Then Jalen Williams was a hit. I think he wasn't a top 5 pick. He was a little bit in the mid rounds. Chet was a number 2 pick. But then when they brought older dudes into the locker room like Hartenstein and a Caruso, so it made it all work. Casey Wallace wasn't a top 5 pick, so it wasn't like OKC was built off of top 5 picks. They just had a bunch of draft picks, but they wasn't the top 5 picks. So it worked out that way.
Yep, and I'm gonna bring up the Kings again, man. They failed on some picks, man. They failed on some picks. So,
well, they failed. They had DeMarcus Cousins in his prime, and that was a failure. They had De'Aaron Fox failure. They had Tyrese Halliburton. You traded him away. That was a failure. Traded him away. So like they had the talents and relatively decent picks because Tyrese was like number 6, number 7, maybe a little bit later than that. And they traded him. So, like, clearly you drafted high, but you're trading your talents away.
Yep, I agree. That's an interesting conversation to have for sure. But we're going to move on. All right. Recently, last Sunday, we had the Super Bowl. But I felt like it was just a lot of controversy this year and like news this year, just talking about the Super Bowl halftime performance. I feel like some people spoke more about the Super Bowl halftime performance than the actual game itself, leading up to it and even after.
Fair.
Just my question to you. Do you think the Super Bowl has gotten a little bit too political? Do you think the fans are making it political? Do you think that that's not really the NFL's goal? Because in my head, it's never really been that much of a discussion in the past, like who performs at halftime. Like, but now the last 2 years when they had Kendrick Lamar making his political message that he put out, and then this year Bad Bunny, not really political, but a lot of people made it political. A lot of people had issues with having a Spanish-speaking performer saying, "Oh, like get somebody from the United States," forgetting that Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory. I just wanted to know what's your thoughts on this. What did you think about the performance? What's your thoughts, bro?
100%. Start off with just his performance. I think it was a fantastic performance. I really don't think it was really political at all. I think it was just him highlighting the culture of where he grew up in Puerto Rico, and like he's proud of his heritage and his culture and the people and like the stores, and you can see like kind of the things he grew up in. And it shows like he came from a relatively lower class, hard working class people, and those people around his community and his friends, just as simple as the bodega worker, the barbershop, all helped grow him as a person. So I thought the performance was great. I enjoyed the performance. I don't think we needed to have a English performance for it to be a good performance. And anybody who makes that argument that, how would you understand? Then don't go to Cabo. Don't all the people who go on these vacations, right? Don't go to Cabo. Don't go to Cancun. Don't tell them to play the music because you damn sure don't go to Dirty Taco. Don't go to Taco Tuesdays anymore, because when that place is bumping like that, you don't be like, oh well, I need an English speaking song there. No, you're there for the vibes, right? So the Super Bowl is main mission is to expand, is to highlight the NFL in the most biggest game, to expand the NFL, because the NFL wants to expand. And not saying we'll have teams in England or whatever, but if more people play football, the football can eventually be in the Olympics or some form of it, a flag football. You can reach out to Mexico. If you want to add a Mexican team, we have the CFL. So I thought the performance was good. When it comes, sorry, I'm rambling, but when it comes to like the political of it, just let's look at just the common denominator of it is, right, it's because of our current president. If you talk about performances in the past, it was never a highlight of who was performing until we had somebody in charge. The person in charge has turned everything that the NFL has done recently into a political thing. And that's dating back all the way with Colin Kaepernick and taking a knee, which the knee wasn't a political stance. It was well, to a degree, it was him taking a political stance, but he asked the people who are in the right place, well, what's the best way where I can protest and not disrespect you guys? And they told him that. And he listened to military people, and then the person in charge took that narrative, hijacked it, and turned it into a whole thing that the NFL doesn't support America and this that, and the other, and that's where it stemmed from, because in the past performance it was never an issue, but the person in charge has turned anything with that NFL does into a political problem.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Colin Kaepernick, because I was going to bring that up. I feel like that's kind of put a little highlight on the NFL's eyes, because I feel like they kind of turned a lot of people off when that happened. I know a lot of like former Black supporters of the NFL kind of like turned away. And I'm going to premise this by saying I don't think it was the NFL's intention to be political about it. I think we had COVID and then all the Black Lives Matter protests with George Floyd. When that happened, the NFL started putting banners on the edges of the field. And again, I don't think it's the NFL's intention to be political with these performances, but I feel like it's kind of highlighted a little bit of just the audience of the NFL. Because when you think of the NFL, you think mostly white Americans from middle America who fall in love with the sport, and they feel like kind of like, I don't even want this platform to get super political, but just with immigration and everything, like it's just a highlight. It's especially highlighted now because of everything that's happening right now.
And they feel like, I've always said. Go ahead. I was saying, just to tag on what you're saying, I always feel like when it comes to football, you look at majority of the players who play in the NFL. NFL is a majority Black sport. That's called what it is. Majority of it is a Black sport. So, we come from the Midwest, we play for the South, but think about who's the coaches, think about who's the owners and stuff like that. And we don't have to go into no colorism or race or anything, but the owners and the coaches tend to be white, and the majority of the players tend to be Black. And there's always going to be a cultural divide, and they understand it because the owners and the coaches didn't go through the same experiences as most majority of the players, who tend to be African Americans, and that's why they always clash.
Yep, and I agree. And I don't know if you saw the video on social media about they was asking Seahawks and Patriots players about the Bad Bunny performance and whether they think it's a good idea and whether they know Bad Bunny. I think most of those players was lying. You telling me that after the season you never flown to Miami or Cancun or any of these places and never heard? Bad Bunny's been around for so long, and he's one of the highest streaming artists in the world. So it's just like, y'all lying out y'all face, bro.
100%. The Bad Bunny has done everything. He's one of the highest streamer. He won multiple Grammys. He has performed in the Super Bowl before. And a lot of people don't know that he was a guest. He wasn't the headliner, but he has performed in the Super Bowl before. And like you've seen him in different platforms. You've seen him in SNL. You've seen him in WWE. He's wrestled. So a lot of people act like they don't know who this person is. They know the person is. It's just the fact that we live in a world where there's a lot of divide right now. So it's just like everything is hyper focused. But that's cutting for let's just be honest. And I've talked about this with many of my friends and people, families, like who was going to be the best person to perform at the Super Bowl other than him? There was nobody. Yeah. As much people want to say certain people, like there was nobody he could do. All right. I hear people want to talk about Chris Brown. Sure. But Chris Brown has too much of a litany of problems for him to be a headliner at the Super Bowl. Right. You cannot have Kid Rock and all these people as your headliner at the Super Bowl, because that's not a draw. And they know that. And people knew that's not a draw. Right. And it's just the fact that it is just like everything has to be. I love football, I love sports, but it always has to just be like this one way. It has to be the Christian way. It's like, no, football, Jesus, and life. That's the only two ways you can always, as we supposed to think about in life, which is not true. Mm-hmm. It was nobody. Taylor Swift ain't coming out to performing. right?
Mm-mm.
I can't think of anybody else who you could see and you'd be like, yeah, that's a great headliner.
I agree. And
There's
the
no
NFL has had some international performers in the past, like
Coldplay's
Coldplay.
international.
Yeah, Coldplay. Like
The Who? He's international.
yeah. So I just don't understand that. And I know it's one of the NFL's goals to like become global because they have more international games now. So like I think if you're trying to expand the game across the world, I think Bad Bunny who better an artist than Bad Bunny to do that, you know? Because everyone know who's he is, and he's like pretty much Drake of like the South American countries and Spanish speaking countries. Like he gets love all across the world. So I supported it, and I thought the halftime show was pretty good. I didn't know what he was saying, but I was still, you know, hitting a little salsa. You know what I'm saying? Like going crazy. So yeah,
it's a halftime performance. It's like his performance is not going to, deteriorate you in any way. Like trust me, I remember when the Who performed. I love the Who was a fantastic band, but that performance was boring. That's what made them really look into like, all right, no, what we need to actually have a better act for the halftime performance. But we don't have any entertainers like that currently right now. It's not a draw. Except Bad Bunny. Bad Bunny was the last genuine draw that I could see. Who are we gonna put? Dua Lipa?
Yeah,
I love Dua Lipa, but
I can't think of anybody. Yeah, I can't think of anybody else.
There's not a single person.
Yup, I really can't think of.
I can't wait for K-pop Demon Hunters to start doing it because I'm gonna be in it.
Yeah, bring K-pop on. Come on, complain about that.
I'm not K-pop Demon Hunters.
I'll be here for that.
Might as well just keep going.
Yeah, just keep it international, man. Expand to Asia. Expand to different parts of the world, man. Why not? All right.
Give them a platform. What's wrong with giving somebody a platform?
Exactly. The biggest platform in the world. All right. We're going to move on. Back to the NBA. Recently, we've had a few scuffles this past week, which is kind of getting to that point in the season where teams are kind of, you know, getting a little moody. We're starting to play teams 3-4 times in the season. Last week we had a scuffle between Jalen Duren and Musa Diabate and Miles Bridges and Isaiah Stewart walking off the bench. Isaiah Stewart currently serving a 7-game suspension. 7. Duren serving a 2-game suspension. And Miles Bridges and Diabate serving a 4-game suspension. And I love it. I'm gonna be honest. I love it. I love the competitiveness. I feel like that's kind of what the game has missed to a degree, like up until this point in the year. But I don't want it to reach a certain point. I know Isaiah Stewart had mentioned, like walking off the court, that why would they draft me to Detroit if they didn't want me to, like, why would they draft me to Detroit? You know, basically saying if they didn't want me to pretty much be aggressive and act.
This is what I was drafted for. I was drafted to be an enforcer. Yeah,
yep. Exactly. But my thoughts are, or my question is, do you have a problem with his mentality? Do you think it's reaching a certain point where he kind of needs to dial it back? I know he had the whole thing a few years ago with LeBron where he was trying to fight LeBron. And I just think, on my opinion, I just think you don't want to have that type of reputation in the NBA, because it's only going to get worse from here. 7 games is a substantial amount of games. And for a Detroit team that has been pretty great all year, I think they have now the best record in the NBA. I think Detroit can't afford to lose him. You know what I'm saying? But I just wanted to know what your thoughts were on that.
Yeah, completely. I think Isaiah Stewart is not talented enough to be able to afford that reputation. So someone like Draymond Green or Rasheed Wallace and stuff like that, those were all former All-Stars. If this somehow ever gets back to Isaiah Stewart, I'm not saying you're not a good basketball player. I think you're very talented. I think you're very important to your team. But because you're important to your team, I think, you know, these things trickle down. And you honestly probably one of the veterans on a young Detroit Pistons team. I actually think you're one of the veterans. So your mentality, what you carry, is going to trickle down to a Sher Thompson and a Ron Holland and Jenkins and etc. So I just believe, like, if you're on the bench, man, you cannot pull up and start throwing hands. Because that just, as already gives shades to people with the bad boy Pistons and then the Mouse and the Palace. And Detroit has done so much to get away from that, but I think that is still like the cardinal sin that's held Detroit back for years was the Malice in the Palace. I don't think they ever truly recovered from that incident since. And it's just like you have to be the leader to be like, know what? Listen, I get it. Players are scrapping. If you was on the court and you want to be pulling up, I get it. You ran from the opposite end of the court all the way to you did a suicide. You legit did a suicide to throw hands.
Yeah,
so it's like, come on.
You did it for the biggest player on your team. Like Jalen Duren was walked away and he was good. He was straight. Like he's the biggest player on your team. He don't need no help, bro. And I get supporting your teammate and being there, but you wasn't on the court, bro. And it's just I feel like Malice at the Palace. Go ahead.
No, I was agreeing with you. Like 100%. You wasn't on the court. You wasn't on the court to do that.
Mm-hmm. It was crazy, and I feel like Malice at the Palace was just kind of like one of those things that like forever left a stain on the city of Detroit and the NBA. You know, and the NBA has tried so hard to get away from that. I love the toughness mentality because that's the mantra that Detroit has pretty much embodied this year, playing with toughness and defense and the amount of size that they have, and that's what makes them so good. But it's not going to make them good if you're not on the court. You know what I'm saying? If Jalen Duren's on the court, is not on the court, you know, and I think he's done a good job walking away. Miles Bridges, I feel like Miles Bridges would have took him too. I'm not going to lie. Because Isaiah Stewart swung and Miles Bridges went down and tried to tackle him. So I'm like, he knows how to fight. I mean, I feel like they probably all know how to get down a little bit, but I don't know.
Listen, it's a basketball fight. It's a basketball fight. No more truly throwing blows.
You could tell like all of them was like throwing punches, but they were really not really trying to connect on that end. Like,
yeah, they wasn't trying to connect. You just throw swap.
Musa, like, he didn't really do nothing. Musa Diabate wasn't really doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I like the mantra. I like the mentality that Detroit has embodied, but it's just like y'all got to be on the court. And if you're not on the court, stay off the court. But you know, I got to be on the court ready to play. Especially now that y'all first, you got a target on your back. You know, just how y'all are the hunters too. You know, y'all got a target on your back. People are coming for that spot, so you got to be mindful of that. You know, because you don't want this to affect playoff standings. You don't want to lose that number one seed to like the Celtics or the Knicks, because you want to be able to. Right now, they're first in the league. You want to be able to carry that if they make it that far into the finals. And we're going to talk about the playoffs later. You know, so I think it's just so important. I bet.
I agree.
So we just kind of talked about it a little bit. Post-trade deadline grades. First team up, I just brainstormed a bunch of teams that I felt like would be interesting to talk about. And I just want to know, all right, up until this point, I want you to give them a grade about how they've been playing up until this point, and then the trades that they did or didn't make and how you think is going to carry them into the rest of the year. Okay, so we're looking at how they played and then the trade deadline and how you think that affects the team. First team, the Houston Rockets.
I think the Houston Rockets season so far is a B. I think they're a B. They're middle of the pack. What's
one of the teams that didn't make a trade?
Yeah, they didn't make a trade. I would give them a B for how they played. I would give them, honestly, a D for playoffs. I'm sorry, for trade deadline, because I think they do need a point guard. I think they need somebody, a floor general. I mean, anybody would be good to help them out. I think they need a floor general. Fred VanVleet is not coming back, so let's just put that out the door. And I think they need a point guard just to help solidify everything between. Like, they could have got anybody. If they could have got like a Titus Jones from Dallas or somebody. I mean, I know Dallas wouldn't want to trade it in conference, but they could have just got like just anybody enough to pass, or, you know, keep the turnover ratio low. Maybe even trade for TJ McConnell and get TJ McConnell at starter minutes, something like that. I would give him a higher chance rating.
Yeah, I agree, man. I think they did good at making with what they have. You know, Fred VanVleet. I thought once I saw the Fred VanVleet injury, I just thought their season was going to be over at that point. I had higher expectations with the Fred VanVleet because he's a game manager. He could hit a 3-point shot, but now I'm gonna agree. I give him a B, mostly because I feel like their offense is very like KD and Sengun heavy. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not sure they have enough shooting on the perimeter to really carry them through the playoffs. I know when you have a 7-game series, you're able to game plan specifically against certain, a team's strengths and weaknesses. And you've seen it. I was watching the game last week against OKC. OKC was double teaming Kevin Durant every time and just forcing other players like Eason and Shingun to shoot those shots and Amen Thompson to shoot those shots. And I think having that one extra X factor outside of Shingun and KD is important if you want to make a long playoff run. So I would have liked to see them make a trade, honestly. Like you said, for a point guard.
Yeah.
I like him men, but I like him more off ball. You could see like teams kind of like fading off of him because like testing him and forcing him to shoot a little more, which is why I'm kind of disappointed that they didn't do anything. So, like I said, I'll give them a B up until this point. For trade deadline, I'll give them a D because they're not a bad team, but they didn't fulfill any needs that they really desperately needed. Yeah. Okay. My team, man. I'm gonna just say I've been really disappointed. And this disappointment has gone years down the line. It's just building up into this point. And I felt like this was finally the tipping point. Because we're always in these fucking trade rumors, bro. We're always in these trade. Oh, KD wants to go to Miami. Dame wants to go to Miami. Oh, Ja wants to go to Miami. Giannis wants to go. Miami's one of the teams for Giannis, and we just never get it done, bro. And I just feel like it's gone to the point where Pat and Eric Spoelstra feels like Eric Spoelstra recently said, I follow Miami a lot, in an interview that he feels like our team has underachieved. And we haven't played to the record that we are right now. He feels like the type of team that we have, we should be having a better record. And my thing is like, we're always in the play-in, right? And we're just consistently just staying put and not trying to improve this team. This team is ass. Like I can't, like some nights I just can't watch this team because I'm like, yo, this basketball is so terrible. If God forbid Tyler Harrell's out, God forbid Wiggins or Norman Powell misses a game, the games are unwatchable at this point. So it's just like, I just want us to do something. Kuminga wanted to come to Miami. We were in discussions for Kuminga. Why didn't we make a trade? Ja's stock was the lowest apparently that it's ever been. And we couldn't trade Ja because we want to hold on to Nikola Jovic. Like, why are we holding on to Nikola Jovic? We could let him go.
So what's your grade?
Ja Morant. We could let Triple J go to get a Ja Morant. I'm okay with that. Oh, my grade? Man, I'm a D minus. F.
D minus? I would say just give it a flat F. Just give it an F.
No. To be honest, for the first half of the season, we started off really well, right? We started off hot. I knew we would eventually trickle down into the spot that we're in. So I'm gonna say a C+. Because I didn't have high expectations for this team going to the season, but because we started off so hot, I was like, okay, maybe we had the quick pace. Maybe we're going places. Maybe we could be a top 6 team. But then, we fell off. Yeah, what's your thoughts, bro? Tell me
Miami Heat gets a solid. They get a solid C for just their season as a whole. I give them a C because they are the best head coach in the league, and for them to be within the 8 to 10 range as always is just always disheartening. When they relatively do have decent enough talent, and I give them a flat out F for the trade deadline. Like they should have pulled the trigger. And like I said, if you want to hold your assets for Giannis going to summer, I get that. But I'd rather them flat out just say it and be like, listen, the reason why we didn't make a trade for a star is we feel like we're banking that Giannis is going to leave, and we're willing to wait it out for our fan base to just wait and see for the summer. But they didn't say that. They're saying that they feel like the team was underachieved. And that's why it's just like you said, Miami never pulls the trigger. Other than LeBron deciding to come there, They never pull the trigger. And again, we talked about this in a couple of podcast episodes ago. But the Heat rely too much on this damn Heat culture, and they rely that they can find hidden gems or hidden stars, and that like a Gabe Vincent or a Duncan Robinson or a Max Strus, and or Jimmy Butler will come there and they will just continue to overachieve. And I think that's the problem. It's a mentality.
You know where that culture went? That culture went out the window, bro. Right out the window, bro. Ever since Udonis Haslem retired, you can argue that, you know, because even those last few years of Udonis Haslem's of his career, we've still kind of overachieved, and even those teams were kind of mid. You know, we made it to the finals one year in Denver and got our ass whooped. You know what I'm saying? But I wasn't even expecting us that year to really have a long playoff run. But it's just like, why are we holding on to these players? Like, all right, Khalil Ware, I get it, 7-footer who can shoot threes. He needs to develop. I get it. But Triple J, also another young talent that we can move to get an even better talent. Because I don't know how high his ceiling is. Koliovic, Yakuchonis, like, what do we see with these guys? I don't know. I don't see it. I'm watching these games and I just don't see it. You know what I'm saying? That's why and what makes it worse is the teams that are also in the play-in are making moves. Atlanta went and got Kuminga. You know what I'm saying? Like, the Bulls, they're not in the play-in, but they made a ton of moves. Probably get worse, but it's just
they made some trades.
I just want us to pick a direction. And it's just like, we're just kind of okay with being middle of the pack right now and just expecting Heat culture to carry us. But we don't have any of those Heat culture guys on the team anymore. We got a completely new team now. We got a lot of young dudes. Bam has taken the captain mantle, but he's also limited offensively. He's not always the most consistent. We don't have one 30-point scorer. Tyler Herro has been out all season. He's always hurt.
They should have traded Tyler Herro 3 years ago. 3 years ago.
Been traded Tyler Herro because those are our biggest assets that we have to really get a player. So I'm just
they should have been. They should have easily traded Tyler Herro 3 years ago to the Nets. Yep. I was reading so many articles about Tyler Herro to the Nets. They should have just did it.
Yep. Got Mikal Bridges back or someone. But at this point, I don't even know. I just want to pick a direction. All right, next up, your team, the New York Knicks. Grade and how you feel like their grade is post-trade deadline.
Yep. So I would give the Knicks for the season, having a new head coach, and being second to third in the East, I give that an A-. I think that's an A- because you can't expect a lot from them with a new head coach. I know it takes time. It takes time to build chemistry. And for trade deadline wise, I give them. Matter of fact, I'm gonna change the grade. Season wide B+. Let me be actually fair. B+ season wise. All right, they're teetering between second and third, and so I'll give them B+. But trade deadline, that's an A. That's an A. Complete. That's a complete A. Leon Rose has done it again for getting Jose Alvarado, a New York kid. That already just builds the culture within New York. Fans are going to love that. Yes, sir. We needed a dog. I have always said the Knicks needed a dog. We need somebody who's going to scrap. He's our dog who's going to scrap. Takes a lot of pressure off of Jalen Brunson on defense. You can run a whole set between Alvarado, Mikal, OG, Mitchell Robinson, and somebody else, and that could be relatively successful. And for what they did to get Jose Alvarado was impressive because they made a small trade with the Bulls, got a player that pretty much nobody wanted, and then was able to flip him and 2 second rounds for Alvarado, which is impressive because I was seeing that they needed to send a lot more to get Alvarado, so they was able to flip all that to get Alvarado. It's impressive.
I'm gonna give the Knicks probably A-. The reason why it's not an A or an A+ is because I feel like, not that y'all underachieved, I just felt like there was just a lot of noise just in this early half of the season. I know y'all went through a little slump a little bit, which I don't think was necessarily fair, because I feel like y'all bounced back a little bit, and I just think the East is so wide open. Like, I don't really think there's one clear-cut, team that, should win or is expected to win. If I do, I think it will be the Knicks. I think I have the most complete team. And you already know where I stand with Jose. I went to high school with him at Christ the King. He was Mr. Basketball in high school. in New York while I was in high school. And like you said, he's just a dog. You know what I'm saying? He could hit the jump shot. He could shoot. You know what I'm saying? If you ever question it, yes, he can shoot. And I think y'all got even deeper now, and y'all just picked up Jeremy Sherlin. I think depth is
Yep.
the most important part going into the playoffs when you have teams game planning specifically against you. I think depth is the most important thing because you could throw different play styles and different ways to win against teams. Jeremy Sherlin can play the 5 in spot minutes. You know, I like that addition, and I think y'all just have a lot that y'all can throw at teams. It's just gonna come down to health for y'all. You know, right now I'm not Mikal Bridges, but Miles McBride is out. I just think it's just really gonna come down to health. I've been saying this since the start of the season. I think the Knicks should win the East. They're the most complete team. I think Detroit is probably your biggest competitor right now. But we're gonna talk about the playoffs later.
Thank you for being here for the journey of the Knicks championship.
That was so hard for me to say, man. All right, Utah. So we kind of talked about Utah a little bit now with the tanking and stuff like that. They made trades for Jaren Jackson. If they can get a top 10 pick, I think that'll be good for them. We're seeing the progression in Keontae George. But I honestly like that trade. You know, they're taking that chance on Jaren Jackson to really set them up for next year. And I think next year Utah's going to have a really huge lineup. You know, they're going to have – I know Lauri Markkanen played the 3 when he was in Cleveland. So they're going to have Lauri Markkanen at 3. He's a 7-footer. They're going to have Jaren Jackson at the 4. He's a 7-footer. And then they're going to have Walker Kessler coming back next year. So I think it should be an interesting team to see next year. I don't know. They're in the West, which is a little difficult to really just say they're going to flat out be a good team. But I think that's a step in the right direction. Danny Ainge has turned around the Celtics in the past, and he's doing his job at turning around the Utah Jazz. They also have Dwayne Wade as one of the owners. So I think Utah Jazz is taking steps, I think. So to start, they're probably going to be a D for this first half of the season. But I like them making these trades going into next season.
I agree. I would say a D for the season, and then a B. Jared Jackson is a defensive player of the year candidate, so that's going to help out. You have 2 defensive player candidates. You have a Walker Kessler, who's a defensive player candidate, and you have a Jared Jackson. So that's 2 defensive players. You have an Ace Bailey, who's young, who's a scorer. Hopefully, he has a better career than Cam Thomas. And then you still have. I think they traded him. The point guard from Florida, Clayton. Walter Clayton. Yeah. I think Walter Clayton got traded.
They traded him to
Memphis. They traded him to Memphis, right? Yeah, I liked him. But draft is here. You have young, you might get another person to fill that point guard position. Yep. So
I think they're taking the right strides. For sure.
Yeah.
The Hawks. They got my boy Kuminga. They got rid of Trae Young. Just my opinion is I hated the fact that they traded Trae Young. I felt like they could have probably got more for Trae Young. But I do like the Kuminga trade. I don't know. The Hawks are they're kind of just been a middle of the pack team. And I don't really think Kuminga's that much of a needle mover all that much. I think this doesn't really make them that much better. I think without Trae Young, again, it doesn't make them that much better. I think they probably got worse without Trae Young. I know people have issues with his defense, but I just think his overall offense it's only going to help any team, I think, especially getting bigs the ball. I know they got Jalen Johnson, who I'm a huge fan of. He's a dog. He's nice, bro. He's good. He's a young talent. But what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, Atlanta's banking on Jalen Johnson being the star of the team. So I think that they haven't officially announced they gave up on Zachary Richardson. He's still young. But they're banking on Jalen Johnson to be the one to carry that team, and Dyson Daniels to be the second star of that team. It's like I said, I think they have a log jam of forwards. I don't know where Richardson fits in that because he was the number 1 pick, but that's a Atlanta Hawks problem to figure out because they're going to need another solid point guard.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have a lot of the same type of player. Like I feel like that Richardson, Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, they have like a lot of those like lengthy like wing defenders and players But the thing about that is just like you could try and get you a bunch of KDs on your team or whatever. It seems like they're going for like that type of prototype, getting a bunch of those. But it's just I don't really see the offensive talent. You know, Dyson Daniels is a great defender. He gets a lot of steals. But I don't really see that game changer really on this team. You know what I'm saying? Which is why I kind of don't really think it's really that needle moving for them. Because with Jalen Johnson, they were only a playing team. You know what I'm saying? And I don't know. I don't think any of those players are needle movers like that.
I don't get that vibe either.
Boston.
I don't get the vibe at all.
I agree. Boston.
Boston season. I think their season's at A. I think they definitely overachieved. I think the Vucevic trade is for next year more than this year. I think they have like a whole year between Vucevic, Jason Tatum coming back, and Jaylen Brown. But I don't. Their ceiling's the second round, in my personal opinion.
Again, so Boston. What are your thoughts on them?
Yes. So yeah, just with Boston, I think Boston's seasons at A. I think they overachieved. I think just personally trade deadline, I'll give it a B because Vucevic is a good player for next year, but we'll see how it works out when Jason Tatum's officially back with that team.
Yeah, I agree. I think Vucevic is a really good player, but I've never really seen him be a high-level player on like a championship-level team. I know he's in Boston, which is the culture, the championship culture. They have all the banners. But I don't know if he's really needle-moving like that. I think it fulfilled the need. You know, they needed a center. But what are your thoughts on Jason Tatum? Do you think he should come back this year? Should he? I think he should sit. Yeah.
I think he should sit out. I think he should sit out completely. And if he does officially try to come back, I don't think he should start at all this season. I think he should just permanently just be off the bench. But even then, that's still risks in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that can come out like negatively affecting them a little more than positively affecting them if he comes back and he's not, because we've seen it like it took KD some time to come back from his injury a little bit. You know, KD's still a phenomenal player, but it took him a few games to really get back to the level that he was at. And for him to just come back at the end of the season playing high-level NBA playoff type basketball, I don't know if it's a good idea for the Celtics. You know what I'm saying? So I 100% agree.
I agree.
We could fly through these next teams. Minnesota, they picked up Ayo Dosunmu. So the Timberwolves, I think they kind of underachieved, you know, so far this year. I think they're sixth place. They're in the playoffs, but I don't think they should be fighting for a play-in position right now. And that's kind of where they are in the standings. But I do like the Ayo Dosunmu trade. I know they were in conversations for Giannis as well. I would have liked to see them make another move because I feel like more just for Anthony Edwards at this point, because I feel like over the next few years he might say, yo, I'm out. Like, I don't want to do this no more if they can. But I know the last few years they've been knocking at the door, making Western Conference Finals. But I don't know if Ayo's much of a needle mover, but I do like him as a replacement for Nickeil Alexander-Walker and bench depth. So I don't know. What's your thoughts on Minnesota?
Yeah, I just think Minnesota overachieved these last couple of years, and I just personally feel like they hit their ceiling. I think this is the best we'll ever see in Minnesota. Minnesota's always fun because you got Anthony Edwards, probably the most marketable player in the NBA. But I just think that in terms of just them and their ceiling, I think they will never reach the feats that they've reached the last 2 years.
Yeah, I agree. All right, we're gonna fly through these real quick. The Clippers, they seem to just completely shift around at the trade deadline. They traded away James Harden. This was one of the more interesting trades throughout the trade deadline. But I like it. You know, they got younger. Up until this point, I'm gonna give them probably an F because I feel like we thought that they would be one of those teams that would be in the top 5, top 6. But I do give them credit for the second half of that first half of the season, only because they've been on a really good streak and Kawhi's been playing. He's been in the lineup. He's been present, and he's been playing at an MVP type of level. So I will give him that. So I'm gonna give him a D for a D plus for starting out slow but turning it around and working their way into the play-in. I like Darius Garland
Yeah,
as a player. Well, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna agree with you. I was gonna say I'll give him a D to a C minus.
Yeah, I like Darius Garland. I like Benedict Mathurin, but I think with a trade like that and those two types of players, I think it's going to take time for them to kind of like mesh and figure it out because we really don't know what type of direction the Clippers are going to go in right now because they are still in the play-in. So I think they're going to still try and compete, but it doesn't really seem that these moves seem like win now type of moves or like just a retool type of move, not really to tank and get a top draft pick. But what are your thoughts?
No, 100%. Yeah. So I'm gonna do the Clippers and the Cavaliers like the same at the same time because both teams are obviously affected by this trade. So I'll give the Cavaliers and the Clippers both. I think it's a win-win for both teams. I think it's a B. B. Well, I'm gonna say it's a B for the Cavaliers. I'm gonna give it a B plus for the Clippers because I think the Clippers did get better. I think the Clippers got younger. And I think Garland seems like a loyalty type of person, so I can see Garland staying in Clippers for the long run. For the Cavaliers, it's a win now move. They have literally a 2-year window between James Harden and Donovan Mitchell. If it doesn't get done, then either it's probably gonna be Jared, but Jared probably gonna be out, and they're gonna have to figure out their money and their books and everything.
Yeah, I agree. I feel
season-wise, I think both teams are underachieved.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like you said, I feel like both these trades fulfilled a need and like a direction that each of these teams were trying to go in. Unfortunately, Garland hasn't been healthy all season. He's been in and out of the lineup, and he hasn't been healthy really since last year. And I know he came in his rookie year, he had a major injury, so I know like that's just something. It just seems like it was just time to kind of part ways. I know it's a fresh start for Garland. I know his father played for the Clippers. So I think it's a good move for both teams. I know that, like you said, the Clippers got younger and the Cavaliers got a win now type of player. I feel like he kind of fulfills that offensive void that the Cleveland Cavaliers needed with getting Evan Mobley and Jared Allen the ball. I think he's also going to be able to score, give you 25 to 30 points a game. But we'll see. Everyone questions James Harden's playoffs abilities, and he's kind of disappeared in a few big games. But I feel like he doesn't really have to do as much of the scoring with having Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell can kind of be the main guy. They have Jared Allen. I think he kind of needs to play more of the facilitator role and just score in spots whenever Donovan Mitchell goes out.
Yeah.
And I think Cleveland could be a tough team, come playoff time. But we're going to talk about the playoffs. Right now, starting with the Eastern Conference. I did want to talk about All-Star, but we're getting kind of late. So we're going to talk about the playoffs. Currently, where we stand, Mike, I just want to know, what are your expectations for the playoffs in the East? We have your standings from 1 to 10 on the board. I know you had a few opinions about what you think the playoffs are going to look like, but what are your thoughts?
Yes. So with the Eastern Conference, right, I believe right off the bat, yes, Detroit's having the best season in the Eastern Conference, but I see Detroit losing in the second round. I depends on who they play. Depends on who Detroit plays. I can honestly see if the Hornets get there, because that was one of the things we talked about. We didn't put enough respect on them. If the Hornets get there, Hornets could give Detroit a battle, because the problem with Detroit is, let me just start off this my soliloquy about Detroit Pistons. Detroit Pistons is a good team. They're a fun story. They're a good team. They're 40 and 13. They're doing great things. But the problem is when the playoffs come, things change. And the problem with Detroit is they do not score enough. They do not have a consistent number 2 option that's going to be able to score enough. Who's going to be reliable? Tobias Harris is not a consistent second option. I don't think anybody can say on the Detroit Pistons they definitely have a second option on Detroit. Now Jenkins has came off the bench as a 2-way contract and came in spots. And Asher Thompson plays good defense around Holland, and all that is good. That's all good during the regular season. You can play that tough and that bad boy Detroit Pistons defense, stuff like that in the regular season. But when the playoffs come, that whistle will get a little bit tighter because they're not going to want to have an ugly basketball game in the playoffs. Adam Silver's not going to want these games to get ugly and like people about to start boxing and fighting. I'm telling you, they are too emotional as a team. Isaiah Stewart, Ron Holland, Asher Thompson, they are too young and emotional. And the thing is, they haven't faced any adversity. So when they say they fall behind, no, they lose the first game at home. They're like, oh, snap. Then you lose the second game at home. Then all of a sudden, you're like, oh, snap. We have to now win 2 games on the road. That's going to be their Achilles heel because Cade Cunningham's phenomenal, but we're going to start seeing it during the playoffs. Does Cade Cunningham have enough to win a championship? And everybody's going to say no. The whole tone's going to change because people like Duncan Robinson, he might start missing a couple of threes that he usually makes. Or Asher Thompson. Everything is sweet when you're on top. But when that adversity hits, I'm telling you, the Hornets, they score. LaMelo's a bucket. Right? Con Kneppel is easily a bucket. That's my rookie of the year. I love Con Kneppel. Kneppel's nice. Brandon Miller is good. Bridges, I'm telling you, if they, depending on the matchup, I'm not saying they're losing the first round, but no one should not be surprised if they go 6-7 with a Hornets or even a Heat or somebody like that, and everybody's saying, what happened to Detroit?
I think the Knicks should probably pray and do everything they can to not face Detroit into the Eastern Conference Finals. Because I feel like Detroit is the one team that has the Knicks circled as a playoff team on the calendar to be like, yo, we're gonna come ready to play you. And I know Detroit is a little battle tested from last year's experience. And they just had, this year we kind of seen that Detroit kind of had the Knicks number so far. But I think if Detroit plays a team like Cleveland, and even still, I think the Knicks probably win that series still. Like I already told you, I think the Knicks are the most complete team in the East. Now, I think Cleveland with this trade has taken that next step to be back to where they need to be. But Harden hasn't shown up in a lot of big games. And one thing that will happen with the Knicks is Jalen Brunson will show up in a big game. And that's one thing I will say. Jalen Brunson will show up. I believe in Cat. I think he's going to show up and be a good number 2. And Mikal Bridges has honestly opened my eyes. I never really was super high on Mikal Bridges, but I feel like he's having a really solid season. And he's a really good perimeter player to maybe match up against a Harden or Donovan Mitchell. And I think the Knicks also have OG who could also match up against a Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. I think the Knicks are a great matchup for Cleveland, but I think they're a bad matchup for Detroit. I don't know.
Well,
I think the Knicks are the favorite.
Hear me out. So last season, what was the whole narrative with the Knicks last season? They could not beat any team in the top 3. They got swept by Cleveland. They got swept by Boston. I think they finished the 3rd seed, but they was losing to all these teams, the top teams in the East. When playoffs came, what happened with the Boston Celtics? They took game 1, and then they took game 2. Right? The playoffs is just different. It's a different, and like you said, Jalen Brunson will show up. I am not drinking this Detroit Pistons Kool-Aid. I think if I had to rank the Eastern Conference, I'm saying Knicks, Cleveland, Philly, Boston, then Detroit. Detroit record, I'm telling you,
Philly top 3.
This. We saw this even last. Those are the top 3 teams in the East: Knicks, Cleveland, Boston, Philly. Okay. And I would almost make an argument for Philly being number 3, or even sometimes second. It just all depends on the health of Joel Embiid. But I'm not drinking this Detroit Pistons Kool-Aid because they do not have enough. They do not have enough scoring. And when I'm telling you, people like Asher Thompson is going to foul out, or Ron Holland's going to foul out, and Stewart's going to lose his cool. And then when they're down 0-1 or 0-2, everybody's going to be like, this is the real Detroit Pistons. Because they have never faced that adversity like that.
So I'm more high on Detroit because I think they have the amount of bigs that can kind of match up with Cat and Mitchell Robinson. I think Mitchell Robinson in some series can be a huge X factor. His ability to get rebounds and get offensive boards, I think that's huge for the Knicks. I think Josh Hart, that's huge for him too. He can get a lot of offensive boards, and he could kind of be that energy player. I think Detroit has those type of players that can match up with the Knicks, which is why I think Cleveland's a better matchup, because the Knicks have a better wing defenders that can match up with Donovan Mitchell, and the Knicks have better wing defenders that can match up with Donovan Mitchell and James Harden. That's more my mentality. If I had to rank, I'm gonna say the Knicks should be number 1, Cleveland number 2. I'm shocked you had Philly, because I know you normally are low on Philly. I think I'm gonna keep Detroit in that top 3 too. Boston, I'm not really high on right now, only because I just think Jason Tatum coming back and playing high-level NBA basketball is kind of me a lot to ask, and I don't know if any of the others outside of JB and JT can bring that consistency. But I don't know, man. I think Detroit matches well with
Detroit starting lineup. Who would you say is the second most important player on that Detroit Pistons team?
Jalen Duren,
right? I would say Duren, right? I don't know how much Jalen Duren averages. Maybe I'm surprised, but is Jalen Duren averaging over 20 points or close?
From a matchup standpoint, though, do you think Cat can neutralize Duren? I think Duren can neutralize Cat more than
100%. Because the thing is this with Detroit Pistons play great defense, but Stewart and Duren is going to have to come out to the 3-point line, right? Which that still opens it up. And the Knicks have been played. They played bad in Detroit, but it was the first 2 games in Detroit. Detroit caught them one time on a back-to-back, and then the Knicks was with Detroit for most of that until I started seeing some petty foul calls. And already, I read articles and stuff like that. OG is already putting that in the minds of ref. Detroit sets a lot of illegal screens, which they do. They set a lot of illegal screens to get their players open. That's why sometimes they get open. And then when they go on a little barrage in Detroit, it's hard to come back from. Right? They just don't score enough. They don't have a number 2 option. If Kid coming in and doesn't have it, who's their number 2? Last year's Detroit Pistons team, I was scared of because they had Dennis Schroeder. They had Malik Beasley. I believe they also had Tim Hardaway Jr. So they had like these 3-point snipers that I was nervous about. I like Duncan Robinson, but Duncan Robinson sometimes can be a little bit inconsistent. When he's hot, he's hot. But when he's missing. They don't have a consistent second option. Sure, Thompson don't shoot like that, and Ron Holland don't shoot like that. They win their games predicated off playing. Tobias ain't showing up.
Tobias can show up in a game. I think you need is one game. Tobias needs to show up in one game. I feel like I like Detroit as a matchup more, defensive matchup more. Like Detroit isn't going to score, but I think they can neutralize the Knicks enough to stay in games. All right, and so Cade can carry them over.
The Knicks are not going to just score 80 points. Like it's going to be every one of those games is going to be 90 and 90, upper 90s to 100 range. And those games just do not.
If those games are 90, like upper 80 to 90 points a game, I think that's Detroit's advantage. I feel like that's advantage.
100%. You're right. You're right. But I don't think Detroit's defense is going to get to those points. They'll win maybe 1 or 2 of those, but in a 7-game series, they're not going to. I don't think any team, they do not have enough scoring. I don't think they have enough scoring against the Sixers when the Sixers are full strength. When Paul George comes back from his suspension, they don't have enough scoring against the Cavaliers. They do not. I don't think they have enough scoring against Boston. I really don't. They cannot score enough.
So who do you think is the Knicks' biggest, competitor? Or like, who are you most scared of outside of the Knicks? Outside of Detroit?
Outside of Detroit? The 76ers, to be quite honest.
Okay.
Because I've seen Maxey going on the heater, and Embiid, you breathe on him, he's going to get a foul call. So he's at least taking 10 free throws. And then Edgecombe is nice. Edgecombe is like that.
Yeah.
Edgecombe is like that. I would not be shocked if the Sixers somehow got to the Eastern Conference Finals. I would not be shocked at all. I just don't think Detroit needs a number 2 option. They don't have a number 2 option, and it's cute leading the league in fouls. and playing the toughest defense in the regular season. It's not like that in the playoffs. I'm telling you, it's not like that.
Okay. I agree. Philly's also. I made a video about Philly. I think Philly's another good piece. I think Paul George, if he comes back, hopefully he's gonna be in condition to come back because it's gonna be right in the thick of playoff basketball. And I don't think they're gonna have too much expectation from Paul George. And they got dogs. They got a bunch of dogs. So I agree. Philly's gonna be there. Detroit, I think is gonna be there. I think
Last
Cleveland's gonna be a
point,
tough out now
I don't
too.
like JB Bickerstaff either. I don't think JB Bickerstaff is that good of a coach either. I think there's a reason why he got fired. I don't think JB Bickerstaff is that good of a coach.
That's fair. I don't really have a strong opinion on
I
JB,
don't
but-
believe in JB Bickerstaff.
Okay. It'll be interesting to see. I think the East is wide open. I think there's a bunch of teams that could win. All right.
Is out the first round.
The West. The best of the West. The war zone in the West. Actually, I don't think the West is as wide open. I think only
I don't think the West is wide open at all.
I think it's either
And I'm not picking
OKC
OKC
or
either.
Denver. I think those are the two best
I think
teams.
it's San Antonio.
Minnesota maybe. San Antonio? It's just
I think
with
it's San Antonio.
It's just I think they're just young. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of their players, they got Darren Fox who has playoff experience, and they got Wemby who I don't think is really gonna affect that much. But I just think they got a lot of young dudes. They have Dylan Harper coming off the bench. They got Stephon Castle. He's gonna have to. They're gonna make him force him to shoot in the playoffs. He's gonna have to step up and shoot. And you've seen like over the last month or so, they kind of slipped a little bit. You know, San Antonio. But I think what sets San Antonio apart is their defense. I think Wemby's. They're gonna have a rim protector, obviously, and I think they have a lot of perimeter defenders that they can throw at, like an OKC. And I don't think OKC is a good matchup, or San Antonio is a good matchup for OKC. But OKC is in a really good position because San Antonio and Denver is second and third, so they wouldn't have to see them to the Western Conference Finals. How I feel about Houston, I just think they're too KD heavy. I don't think they have enough shooting around KD. LA, they got Luka, they got Reeves, they got a bunch of. They're just gonna have to outscore teams, and I don't know if they have the defense to stop enough teams. And Minnesota's been too inconsistent.
I agree.
If the Clippers can, I can't do that. What's your thoughts?
I like San Antonio the best out of that. I think Jalen Williams' hamstring is going to be an issue all season for the rest of the season, and I don't think he's ever going to fully be healthy. I like San Antonio a lot. I think I'll be honest. I think it's San Antonio and nobody else. I don't think it's even close.
Really?
I like Denver, but Jokic is not healthy either. As much he's forced his way back early, but I don't think he's enough. And Aaron Gordon, I don't think is ever going to get healthy this season either. I don't like Minnesota really that well. I think this is the year Victor Wembanyama comes out and says, like, I am that dude. Like I'm the most unstoppable force in the league, which I think he is. If he truly wanted to be a 40-point scorer, he could. He likes to play within the system, and I respect that. But I think this is going to be his first ever playoff experience. I think he's going to come out and show, like, I'm here.
I think, and this is a huge caveat because they've been having so many injuries. I think if OKC's healthy, they should be the best team. But I know I'm looking at Houston in that 4 spot. Houston has competed well against OKC this year. They won the last matchup against OKC, but OKC hasn't had the injuries. I think that's an interesting matchup for a second round series. I think whoever, either Denver or San Antonio, I think whoever comes out of that, I don't know, man. I got you.
The West is weird.
The West is weird, bro.
The West is weird, like you're saying. It's like I don't really believe in the Lakers. I don't, but I do believe in Luka's abilities. So, like, that's the caveat. Like, I believe in Ime Udoka more than I believe in the Houston Rockets as a team. They said OKC should be should be there, but we don't really get repeat champions like that. And Denver pushed them to a hard 7-game series. And then, like I said, but Denver's they're not healthy. I don't think they'll ever be healthy this year. I don't think OKC would be as healthy as this year. So it's just like, I think depending on how the season ends and where we are, I just like San Antonio the most. I feel like they have the Aaron Fox, who's a good, point guard scorer. Like Victor, I think should be averaging 30. He should be scoring 30 in the playoffs. And then Castle's good, and then you got Harper off the bench. So
I'm only just worried about San Antonio's youth and their ability to hit. I mean, they got Vassell who can hit an open three. They got energizers off the bench too, and Keldon Johnson.
Yeah.
So I think they're an interesting team, but I don't know. I'm not ready to just say right out the Spurs are gonna do it. I think.
Well, we saw the in-season tournament, and each in-season tournament, it's like, as much as it's just an in-season tournament, I think it's a stepping stone to show like this young team can make the push. Like they're here.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be one of those top 4 teams to make it. I think because Houston has played well against OKC this year too. A lot of teams have played well. OKC is not like this dynamic dynasty that's unbeatable. I think a team can knock them off, but I just don't know which team will. I even think Minnesota can like sneak in and be a surprise team too. So
yeah,
I don't know. All right, we've been going for a minute. I did want to talk about All-Star Weekend. Just what are your thoughts on All-Star Weekend, All-Star Saturday night, real quick?
I'm not watching.
You're not watching?
I'm not watching.
Today or tomorrow?
I'm not watching any of it. I've been over the All-Star Weekend. Like, it's officially Pro Bowl level. I'm over it.
Yeah, I feel that, bro.
It's done. There's nothing for an All-Star game for me unless they bring back the old school players where there's some teams jerseys. Then they might bring me back, but I'm over it. I'm done All-Star Weekend.
Yo, I agree, bro. I mean, the dunk contest is played out. I don't really think you just run out of ideas. I think dunk contest is more for like the showmanship. I just think they just got guys in there that like don't play. Carter Bryant is barely in the rotation. Keldon, what's his name?
I have no clue who's it. I saw the names. I was like, I have no clue.
Like, who are these guys?
And the thing is, like, I hear what players are saying, like, oh, every dunk's been done before. But it doesn't mean that you still can't do the dunk. Because every dunk might have been done before, it doesn't mean the dunk's not hard. Like, and then if you have the name to do it, if you're like a star player, if Kobe Bryant would do the damn cupcake dunk and blowing it out, that's a 50. Because it's Kobe Bryant and him doing it. So, like, I'm trying to think of a good young player who was like athletic. All right,
Shaedon Sharpe,
Edgecombe, Shaedon Sharpe, or even like VJ Edgecombe, who was like you as a young player, you should want to do the dunk contest to announce yourself. That's always been the stepping stone. You do the dunk contest to show that you are next up and whatever. We have seen it. Dominique, Jordan, Kobe, Vince, whoever, Jason Richardson to a degree. You show that you're like, I'm here, I'm a household name. You should know me when I play on the court. No one cares no more.
Yeah,
and that's LeBron's fault.
It's LeBron's fault. No, we're not because why you say it's LeBron's fault?
It's because LeBron. Now, why I say it's LeBron's fault? It's not because he didn't do it. It's the fact that he teased our emotions many years. LeBron was like, "Oh, I should do it. No, I'm about to throw my name in." And then when push comes to LeBron, don't do it. Every single time, LeBron has teased himself doing it, and he's like, "Nah, I'm out." LeBron trolled. He trolled us for years, and then that rubbed off on these young players. Like Anthony Edwards should have done it at least once. I'm not saying like he has to do something crazy.
Yeah, what I am hoping, at least for Sunday night, is like guys like KD, and I mean, you just said what you said about LeBron. I'm hoping like guys like KD, who I know will take something like this serious, can get the rest of them to play hard. Because even Sunday night has turned into like last year's All-Star game was probably the worst I've ever seen it. Like they didn't give a fuck about nothing last year. Like they didn't care about nothing. Like, and KD recently, came at the international players, Luka and Jokic. And I'm like, yo, he really brought up a really good point about how like they kind of like just bullshitted throughout it. Like taking long
100%.
half court shots and like missing wide open dunks. It's just like that's not cool. Like that, and the product just looked terrible on TV. So I don't know. I wanted to ask who you think is the best team. Do you think the Worlds got it, or one of the East, not the East, one of the U.S. teams got it?
Well, depends how hard these guys are. Lucas is playing today. I mean, not today, but he's going to play. I saw that. I mean, if the world was completely, I don't know who's playing, because is Giannis playing? No, he's hurt. I don't think he's going to play.
Nah, he's hurt.
I would say world.
Shea is
but
out.
If everybody's healthy, but I'm going to say US got it. I'm going to say US got it.
Yeah, one of those teams. I did want to talk about American sports versus world sports and basketball, but we don't got enough time right now, so we can push that to next episode. Last up, everyone's favorite segment, your Hoops and Hangouts Player of the Week. This is somebody that you want to highlight, you want to shout out, that you feel like hasn't been getting enough shine, people aren't talking about, and just someone that you think has been really holding it down for their team or for just the culture, sports culture. Who you got?
I got two shout outs. Shout out to a former Jet, Sam Darnold, for winning the Super Bowl. 5 teams. And you on your 5th team, you show the perseverance that, people might label you as a bust, or you suck, or you go into a bad, disorganized franchise like the Jets, and you keep working, and then you made it to the top of, the mountain. So shout out to Sam Darnold for winning his first ever Super Bowl and his first ever appearance, and doing something that Lamar, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, Josh Rosen, all those quarterbacks within your class has not been able to achieve. And that's win the Super Bowl at the highest level. Second person I just want to highlight, I had two, is my dog. I've already talked about him earlier. I'll tell you again. Con Kneppel, that boy is a hooper. Con is nice. Con is my rookie of the year. He has single-handedly brought back the Hornets, because I thought LaMelo Ball was not a winner. I never say he was a good basketball player. I just didn't think he was a winner, and he has turned him into a winner. Right now, he's playing some of the best basketball of his life. Same thing with Brandon Miller. I think Con Kneppel is the best player of the Hornets, and he is that glue that's going to get the Hornets out the abyss of loserness.
Yeah, is Brandon Miller and Con Kneppel like the 2 best players on the Hornets? Both of them? Would you put both of them over LaMelo?
Yes.
Word. Okay, I like
the Hornets is like the old school Timberwolves when they had Jimmy, Wiggins, and Karl-Anthony Towns. Like the most talented player on that basketball team was Wiggins. The best player was Carl, but the hardest worker was Jimmy Butler, and Jimmy Butler was the reason why that Timberwolves team achieved higher rates. Con Kneppel, I think, is the hardest worker. I think the most talented player is LaMelo. He just needs to be ringed in. And I think the best player would have been Brandon Miller.
Okay.
And Brandon Miller and LaMelo could be swapped in their roles. But Con Kneppel was the glue that got them going.
Yes, I like that, man. I think the Hornets are on their way up. They're ascending. And they got a lot of young talent. Brandon Miller is taking that next step. Future All-Star. Con Kneppel, future All-Star. And they're a future team that could look scary. As far as for me, I got 2 players of the week. One, I want to just shout out, just because I did watch the Rising Stars Challenge last night. I didn't have nothing else to watch. And I want to shout out Melo, Tracy McGrady, and Vince Carter, and Austin Reeves for doing a good job coaching up those Rising Stars teams. They came out and they competed, and it was a little bit more competitive than the All-Star game. So shout out to them. They put out a good product. They were all competitive games in the tournament. And I like that they really came in the locker room and just spoke about setting the tone for the weekend and just being competitive, which is something I feel like overall All-Star weekend has just lost. So that's something that I've always grown up appreciating, just the nostalgia and the competitiveness of it, which it's fallen off. And then my next one, it's just for Kawhi Leonard, man. Kawhi Leonard on the Clippers. I know they're currently in 10th. They're not really in the playoffs yet, but just them starting off the year, starting off slow. He played 23 straight games at one point this year. He's averaging 27 points a game. He's shooting 38% from three, 2 steals a game. So he's really, despite all the transition and everything and the stuff that went on in the summer that we still might hear in the future about, he still had put together a really good season, and he's playing, most importantly. And I'm gonna continue to root for the Clippers. Hopefully that they can get in the top 8 or so. So shout out to him. All right, but we've been on here for a really long time. It's getting to an hour and a half. So, Mike, any last words for the people?
Knicks are going to the finals. I'm gonna preach it every episode. We're going to the finals, and I can't wait. I'm gonna be on the float next to Jalen Brunson. Me, Jalen Brunson, Alvarado. No, I'm gonna be right next to him on the float.
If they go to the finals, I'll pull up to the parade with you, bro. I'll pull up to the parade. Why not? As a
I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be right on the float. Me, Timothée Chalamet, Ben Stiller, Tracy Morgan, Spike. We're all gonna be there together.
You know, as a former certified Knicks hater, you know, I'll be there with you, support you. I know it's been a long time coming.
New York happy. Long time.
Be sure
before my lifetime, baby.
Yeah, but be sure to like, comment, subscribe, everything, all the above. Show us love, please. We're trying to develop and grow this thing. All right. We're gonna catch y'all in the next few weeks. Love and appreciate y'all. Peace.